Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Hope you had a good weekend. We certainly did. Took Hannah horse riding, and then she went for a stayover with a friend. Macro thoughts: the Iranian rial has plunged to a record low against the US dollar on the unofficial market on Sunday. The dollar was being offered for as much as 87,000 rials compared to around 75,500 on Thursday, the last trading day before Iran's weekend. Currency has been sliding for months because of a weak economy, but mostly because of the reimposition of US sanctions. Video posted on social media showed protesters marching and chanting "strike, strike." The footage could not be authenticated independently by Reuters. And my conclusions are this is financial warfare. Netanyahu has spoken about it severally. And we're going to have to see how resilient Iran is. But, this thing has been tried since the revolution in 1979 and has not succeeded. Banks may be using Lehman-Style trick to disguise debt. This is the off-balance sheet repo instrument that we actually, when I was in banking in London, we transacted several of these trades with Lehman. Home Thought's new model predicts that we're probably the only advanced civilization in the observable universe. And this poem by Warsan, Shire, British Somali poet, Home: no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbour's running faster than you. The boy you went to school with who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. No one would leave home unless home chased you, fire under feet, hot blood in your belly. It's not something you ever thought about doing, and so when you did, you carried the anthem under your breath, waiting until the airport toilet to tear up the passport and swallow each mouthful of paper, making it clear that you would not be going back. You have to understand, no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. Who would choose to spend days and nights in the stomach of a truck unless the miles travelled meant something more than journey? No one would choose to crawl under fences, be beaten until your shadow leaves you, raped, then drowned, forced to the bottom of the boat because you are darker, be sold, starved, shot at the border like a sick animal, be pitied, lose your name, lose your family, make a refugee camp a home for a year or 2 or 10, stripped and searched, find prison everywhere, and if you survive, then you are greeted on the other side with go-home blacks, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers sucking our country dry of milk, dark with their hands out, smell strange, savage. Look what they've done to their own countries, what will they do to ours? The dirty looks in the street, softer than a limb torn off. The indignity of everyday life, more tender than 14 men who look like your father between your legs. Insults easier to swallow than rubble in your child's body. Your legs. Insults easier to swallow than rubble than your child's body in pieces. For now, forget about pride. Your survival is more important. I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. Home is the barrel of the gun. And no one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home tells you to leave what you could not behind, even if it was human. No one leaves home until home is a damp voice in your ear saying, "Leave, run now, I don't know what I've become." This photograph is of a lion on a rock, photographed in Uganda by Will B.L. Africa is a country a day like today. Senegal drew with Japan in a match that caught the continent's attention. Political reflections: Turkish voters gave President Recep Tayyip Erdogan a decisive victory in national elections on Sunday, lengthening his 15-year grip on power. Assad told the Russian NTV the struggle for Syria started 12 centuries BC between the Pharaohs and the Hittites. A deal to be revealed soon. This is Jared Kushner's Middle East peace deal. It has a 0% chance of ever being a substantive deal of any kind. International markets: China's cut its reserve ratio for some banks. Beijing is preparing its economy for the fallout from US tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese imports from July 6. Chinese stocks are on the brink of a bear market. This is a chart from David Inglis. The market cap of the entire S&P 500 Consumer Discretionary Index has gained $318 billion so far this year, of which Amazon and Netflix on their own account for $375 billion. Strip out these gains and the rest of the index has dropped $57 billion in market cap for the year. Currency markets: euro dollar 116.54, dollar index 94.52, Japanese yen strengthened overnight 109.46, Swiss franc 0.9878, the pound 132.62, Australian dollar 0.7423, Indian rupee 68.065, South Korean won 11.1575, the rial 378.54, Egyptian pound 17.8715, and the rand 13.4579. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I think we're coming off a little bit in the near term. Goldman Sachs on the euro dollar, which is last trading at 116.55, are actually bullish, saying that there was a double bottom at 115.15. I'm in no man's land. My objective remains 114.50. We got pretty close, 115.15. Speaking of possible analog year comparisons, this is the Nasdaq via Peter Brent. Bitcoin dropped below 6,000, but is currently at 6,150. Broken parabolas typically collapse in phases with blistering rally in between. Bitcoin is among the canaries in the coal mine. Speculative wealth born of deranged monetary policy, already at 1/3 of its peak. Losing another 50% would be nothing. The combined market cap of the 20 largest crypto coins at the end of 2017 is down 290 billion year to date, a decline of 57%. Charlie Vilello. Commodity markets: gold last trading at 1267.50. Obviously, a stronger dollar's pressured gold low. WTI crude oil, big surge on Friday, $68.15 trading last. Bloomberg agriculture sub-index, look at this, it's interesting, possibly one hell of a capitulation move, says some chartist. Emerging markets, take a look at this chart showing the underperformance of emerging market equities versus the US index. Turkish currency reserves have plunged below $80 billion, which is the lowest since 2012. Below critical level to cover short-term debt of $181 billion and a current account deficit almost 6% of GDP. Abraj, a private equity firm, files for provisional liquidation. Abraj's downfall is highly unusual. Debt is generally taken on by the individual funds run by the private equity firms or the companies that those funds own, rather than by the firms themselves. This is a very strange scenario that's developed here. A charismatic boss can sometimes lull investors in a private equity fund into complacency. Very strange scenario, actually. I was concerned about an emerging market crisis on the 14th of May. That link is up on the website. Look at this photograph of Kir Ganga, Himachal Pradesh in India. starting from the village of Barshani, the gorgeous Parvati Valley. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to hike up these hot springs, but it is well worth the time and effort it takes to reach Kirganga, a meadow where Hindu god Shiva is said to have meditated for 3,000 years, especially when you get to immediately bathe in the pools and take in the surrounding views of the Himalayas. Sub-Saharan Africa, well, there was plenty going on this weekend. Abiy later described the explosion as a well-orchestrated attack, but one that failed. Few Ethiopians were injured. There are a few people who lost their lives, he said. Love always wins. Killing others is a defeat. To those who tried to divide us, I want to tell you that you have not succeeded. And then this was some kind of explosion that happened as he was addressing a mammoth crowd in Addis Ababa. He said building an independent nation is not the same as building a free society. What good is a free country if we don't enjoy freedom, if we are not free from fear, if we don't have freedom of speech and expression, if we build dividing walls rather than bridges? Have a look at this photograph from Oromo Pride. This is a massive rally. He showed up at the march wearing a t-shirt with a map of Africa and Mandela's famous power salute. I cannot tell you the hope that sparks in me when I see Ethiopians who have come together for love and for forgiveness, he said. Pilling is calling him Ethiopia's Mandela steps up pace of change but provokes enemies. Maybe the most popular politician in Africa, but he's also made enemies. On Saturday at a huge rally in Addis Ababa, an explosion that may have been intended to kill him left 2 dead and 156 people injured, 5 of them critically. No one has taken responsibility for the blast, and Mr. Abiy did not try to pin the blame on anyone. To those who try to divide us, I want you to tell you that you have not succeeded. And basically, he's only been in power 2 months, but the bottom line is, as Hervé said, he's a nuclear on the block, and he's really turning into the darling of the youth demographic. He's, in my opinion, breathtaking, and all of it is unfolding in real time. The TPLF clique are dumbfounded by the ongoing changes, as they know full well that their game has come to an end. That's President Isaiah Afwerki. He's moving so fast, everything around him looks static and wooden. Things like the people of Tigray are still begging for a drop of water. The TPLF is not the people of Tigray, a very clever political pronouncement. And I was saying, to really disrupt, you have to move at lightning speed, and that's what he's doing. He really is extremely impressive. Obviously, he's upset a few people, but I'm not sure that bar actually assassinating him point blank, they can stop him. Zimbabwe's president calls for peace after stadium blast attack, practically within an hour of each other. Campaign so far has been conducted in a free and peaceful environment, and we will not allow this cowardly act to get in our way as we move towards elections. Let us continue to be united and address our differences peacefully. The strongest response to violence is peace. The strongest response to hate is love, he said. In this video, you can see the explosion at the ZANU-PF rally in Bulawayo. Initially, there was speculation that this was an assassination attempt. And then the second link is of a dragged video which shows you the projectile flying through the air and landing near President Mnangagwa before exploding. Mary Chiwenga, the wife of the Zimbabwean vice president, was one of the injured, and President Mnangagwa visited her in the hospital. Mnangagwa said, "He's not shaken, it's not my time. Those who have done it are likely to go before me." Trevor in Cube, who I follow on Twitter, says, "I've been working the phone over the past 90 minutes. This is what I can share. 1. Intelligence police ruling out MDC as a source of the explosion. 2. Militant activists in Bulawayo have been questioned and ruled out. Second, suspicion is Robert Mugabe's sympathizers. Did they do this? Do the G40? C, there is a strong sense there is a military element that does not want to see peaceful elections. D, a section of military believes ED will remove Constantine Chiwenga's VP after elections. There is real tension between Ed and Chiwenga. Did Chiwenga do this? Those close to him say that if it was him, it would not have been this clumsy. 20th of November, I wrote of how the genie's out of the bottle in Zimbabwe. The value of foreign debt raised by sub-Saharan African countries through the issuance of Eurobonds has increased 3.5 times to $18 billion in 2017 from $4 billion in 2013. The first quarter of 2018 was characterized by even increased Eurobond issuance with a total of $10.7 billion being raised in that period, compared to a pro-rata of $4.5 billion raised in quarter 1 2017. NASPERS frees up cash to tap flood of investment options, put aside the proceeds of share sales in Tencent and India's Flipkart to pay for new investments due to the abundance of opportunities in its preferred media and technology markets. South African all shares up down 4.45% year to date. Dollar versus Rand, the Rand has strengthened a little bit more, 13.4579. Nigerian all shares down 1% year to date. The Ghana Stock Exchange is up 12.03% year to date. Uhuru and Ruto Lifestyles, as interpreted by It's a Mad World. My piece was entitled, Why Are You Killing the Goose That Is Laying the Golden Eggs? Safaricom's M-Pesa is a ubiquitous and viral phenomenon. M-Pesa dialed Kenya Inc. up onto the global radar, with even Bill Gates tweeting, Kenya's M-Pesa proves that when people are empowered, they will use digital tech to innovate on their own. M-Pesa was in fact co-funded by DFID's Financial Deepening Challenge Fund and Vodafone some 11 years ago, and went viral from the get-go. I remember vividly being in Michael Joseph's office at the time of the M-Pesa launch, and him explaining it to me. This is a sticky thing, he said. Today, M-Pesa has 20.55 million customers, contribute $629 million of revenue to Safaricom's full-year revenue of $2.337 billion. Those numbers are startling and parabolic, but dig deeper and there's an extraordinary story. The original need M-Pesa met was the need to circulate money within Kenya and serve a domestic remittance market, i.e. sending remittances from Nairobi and big urban centers back to the rural areas. Consider that total mobile money for January 2018 clocked $3.229 billion versus $0.484 billion in January 2010. This M-Pesa mobile money economy was static before and largely trapped in the form of mattress money. M-Pesa is about volume, but also about velocity. The M-Pesa economy has outstanding velocity. Loans are being taken out in the early hours of the morning, and those same loans are being repaid in the evening, the same day. M-Pesa has been a growth engine. Whenever there's a cash transaction, we see an opportunity. Transaction value in 2017 doubled. We are building the ecosystem to monetize tomorrow. That is the Safaricom CFO Satish Kamath. Monthly usage per customer is averaging 10 transactions per customer per month. I think that's a little bit outdated, I'm not sure. I believe, but I would really like to dig into some higher frequency data. MJ said in the last year alone, the service processed 6 billion transactions, peaking at 529 a second in December 2016. MIT research published a few years ago showed that since 2008, access to mobile money services increased daily per capita consumption levels of 194,000 or 2% of Kenyan households, lifting them out of extreme poverty. But there's an interesting gender effect. Female-headed households saw far greater increases in consumption than male-headed households. Not surprisingly, households where agent density increased by 5 agents, the average in the sample, also saw a 6% increase in per capita consumption, enough to push roughly 4% of the sampled households above poverty levels. In line with its social impact vision, Safaricom introduced M-Pesa Kidogo, through which transactions under 100 shillings do not attract a service fee. I was at Kakuma refugee camp a few weeks ago at a TEDx event organized by the UNHCR. And as I strolled around, I kept thinking to myself, what's changed? Then I realized all these folks are connected to the 21st century. They have a mobile internet and they have M-Pesa. Today, M-Pesa customers can link their PayPal accounts to their M-Pesa wallets, allowing someone in Kakuma refugee camp, for example, to buy or sell services to merchants anywhere in the world. I recall Jack Ma saying at a conference I was moderating in Nairobi, it's about platform visibility. Without visibility, you're invisible. The M-Pesa economy has made the invisible visible, and it has given the previously invisible the ability to transact anywhere in the world of 7 billion. It is a phenomenon, it's a grassroots miracle of democratization and economic liberation. This is something that Bob Collymore, the CEO, has always understood intuitively. We target the 1 shilling, he says. The banking sector across the world has always ignored the so-called base of the pyramid. We haven't, because we understand that the base of the pyramid needs to be served, and there's also commercial viability in doing that. Therefore, when I saw that the Treasury was dialing up the mobile money excise duty 200 basis points from 10 to 12%, I asked myself, why are you killing the goose that is laying the golden eggs? The mobile money CAGR was, equation 667, divided by 8 equals 83.375%, 2010 through 2018. I know that's not exactly scientific, but close enough. Why not keep encouraging its parabolic trajectory and taking 10% of that fastest growing pie? Of any pie I can find in Kenya Inc., it's a seriously suboptimal move. This is a symptom of a reverse Darwinism philosophy we seem to be promoting, where we penalize success. So I'm calling for an immediate reversal of this excise duty increase. It's kindergarten economics, I'm afraid. I'm also calling for a lifting of the daily M-Pesa cap. Makes no sense anymore. It's an artificial number which makes little sense in the context of a cash-light economy, and from a regulatory compliance perspective, M-Pesa is prima facie more compliant than the banking system because of the digital trail left by each transaction. And my final thought is that Safaricom should be considering an M-Pesa crypto coin. These are the key highlights of the year from the March through December 2017 results. That's Kenya Airways. This is from the Saiton report, Kenya's public debt to GDP, 5-year yield, 5-year Eurobond yield. This was the 5-year issued in 2014, unchanged at 5.3%. The 10-year, which was issued in 2014, increased by 10 basis points to 6.9%. 10 years issued earlier this year, 7.6%, 30-year, 8.7%, so a bit of a sell-off there. Diaspora remittances increased by 56.6% in April 2018 versus the previous year. This is supporting the shilling. The Kenya shilling on a year-to-date basis has gained 2.3% against the dollar. Nairobi all shares up 0.9% year-to-date, but has fallen 12.123% since closing at a record high on April 5. Stock market last week was on a downward trend. All share down 3.1%, NSE 20 down 1.5%. Market is currently trading at a price-to-earnings ratio of 14, which is above the historical average of 13.5. NSE 20 is down 11.1%. Old Mutual is increasing its stake in UAP Holdings by 7.3% from 16.7%. And finally, if you're interested, one of the last links is a link to any share price listed at the Nairobi Securities Exchange.